All right, we're back here, continuing discussions between myself, Coach Josh Greco, and Dr. Robert Flower. Dr. Bob, I believe we're doing a little math today. Is that right? So hit us off here.
Yeah. Okay. So in potential theory, we have a psychological scientific formula for decision making and conflict resolution and just general understanding. And the way it goes is A plus B always equals C. A standing for awareness or focus, B for beliefs, and C for character or communication. So the way it works is very simply this. Whatever we focus on, become aware of, and whatever we believe about that thing that we're focusing on will always equate to how we express it or what we are expressing. And there's one of three ways that happens: positive, negative, or neutral. Okay. Uh, the uh, the issues of decision making, of conflict resolution, things of that sort, are easily resolved by just focusing on that formula.
Hmm.
All you really need to know is one of the first two, what you're focusing on and what your belief is, okay? And you will find what is at issue with what you're communicating. So one of the things in potential theory that I try and relate to clients or individuals that we're relating to is trying to seek what it is you're really focusing on. Because many times we find that what people say that they're focusing on is not what they're focusing on. There is something deep, and that metaphysical issue behind the scenes that we're really looking for, right? Mm-hmm. And that makes understanding a hell of a lot easier, Josh, because when you get to the root cause, you see yourself in a different light, and you see others in a different light, and you see the entirety of the picture in a different light. So it becomes a very simple way of dealing with conflicts and decision making and things of that sort when you get to that. And it doesn't take much. We go through some training exercises that are relatively simple. And of course, the assessments always get to the very earthly truth about what you're actually thinking, what you're actually doing. How does that sound to you, Jeff?
It sounds great. I have a qualifying question, if I may, Dr. Bob.
Yeah.
So how are we applying this? Like, where is this useful? Is it with our relationships, our friendships, our partner, or is it with debating people? Like, why would we want to work on this?
Why would we want to work on this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because it does get to the heart of things and to understanding. I mean, that's the basic factor. The more we understand, Josh, ourselves and our world around us, the easier life becomes.
Okay, that's what I was referring to, like the application. What are we trying to do? Trying to make our lives easier.
Yes, we're trying to understand ourselves. We're trying to understand the world around us, and the world in front of us. Where are we going, and why are we on the path that we're on? Questions such as that really come to the forefront, and I understand that as a practical matter, most people don't want to be bothered with that, but there are times in your life when you need to address that.
Oh, for sure. Just maybe a quick comment here, because I feel like we're about to really get into it and I'm looking forward to this, but I think that's where a lot of this, non-descriptive but pervasive like anxiety comes from, is just ignoring or not listening to whatever that may be, our intuition that we're not doing the right things or there's something bigger out there for us, so that this formula can kind of address that. And what I'm hearing from you is that it's just a more peaceful approach to life, because if you understand your world and the people around you and how you're interacting with them, then it's like a flow. It's almost like it's a natural state, and you feel more at peace. You don't feel this anxiety like you're running from this thing or over to here, or am I accomplishing this? Am I doing this right? There's just this knowing, like I'm living my purpose or whatever, I'm living in this flow state, and I know where to best spend my time.
Yeah, well, you just touched on something very important, your purpose.
Mhm.
And I think, well, when I'm talking about understanding, that's one of the things that we're actually seeking, but don't know that we're seeking. What is my purpose in life? What is my mission? Do I have any? It doesn't seem like it. Nobody's coming down or walking up to me and knocking on the door and say, by the way, here's your purpose. Uh, but that is actually what's happening. And that's why a simple formula like that, like the theory of potential, that's what it does. It says to you, excuse me, wake up from the sleep that you're in, because there's this underlying reality that's at you every day. And you say, like, something is bugging me, something is itching, and I don't know what it is. It's that underlying, again, metaphysical uh, reality behind life that you're seeking, that needs to be satisfied. So
Yes.
you're right on target there.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get into the formula. So just to make sure I have it, you said, so it's A plus B equals C, right? So the A is awareness,
Yes.
the B is like our beliefs, and then the C is the communication.
Right, or character. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Whatever we're character.
All right. So I feel like we're like circling around above. So like take us down into it. Let's jump in here.
Okay. Um, well, that's 3 of the 13 principles. Okay. So let's jump onto the character portion of it. Right? And there are the 4 functional principles in the theory of potential, which is how our character is related. There's the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the intuitive, or spiritual. Okay, uh, that is the nature of our character. And again, they are either positive, they are negative, or they are neutral. Okay, so
What do you mean by that? Positive, negative, neutral? What do you mean by that?
for instance, you can have a character that's negative, malevolent, for instance. You could
Okay.
you could be focusing on power, for instance, and believe that you are the one that should have power over certain people. Okay, I mean, so you go out and you become a politician, you create laws, or you become a dictator, or you become a general, or something like that, and you're inculcating um, uh, negative factors into somebody else's life. Right? So then you have a characteristic that a lot of people say that President Trump has a negative character. He tears people down and whatnot. He attacks and whatnot. And that's an example of one. Someone may say that Biden has a negative. Well, this is all true, but nobody, very rarely, is all negative or all positive.
Absolutely.
Some people come pretty close, in history, but yeah. So it's either the expression, the communication is. We have to look at it as a positive and a negative, because that then presents a clear, open picture of what's really going on. So if you focus on something and you have your belief about it and you express it to me, let's say, in a discussion, I may turn around and say, well, that's negative. Well, okay, this presents a way of looking at it in a very objective, scientific method, because these 13 principles of potential, theory of potential, have no relevant value. They are just simply categories. Okay? They are not positive or negative or neutral. It is you, us, who places the positive, the negative, or the neutral characteristic.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So
Okay.
you have this matrix over here, and you're filling in all of the different squares, and you have the information, and then you say, okay, but gee, there's no negative or positive here. Okay, great. You're at the basis. Now you start building from there. And you say, well, this person, this is negative. Why is it negative? So now you start getting into the characterization of the character. And you then find that, gee, you know what? I never realized that. Or, gee, maybe I am being a little bit negative about this. Okay. So it becomes pure character when you recognize the issue and your place in the issue. Now that's when you become an accomplished human being. That's when you become the warrior. When you turn around and say, yeah, that's me. I've got this. I'm not seeing this right.
It's the ability almost to step outside yourself and see yourself in that situation, and then almost make a judgment on.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a system that you can trust because it's not built by human hands or human mind. It's a biological nature's system. And it has no sense of relativity.
There's no bias. No bias.
Yeah, no bias. It just is. It categorizes. That's all it does. Then it's up to you to see how you are categorizing those different principles.
Mm.
How are you using them? How's the other guy using them? All right.
Sure.
So it's information. It's personal information. It's not. It doesn't say that you're a sinner. It just says that this is the path that you're on. This is how to get to the truth of your path. And these are the possibilities of your future path. That's what it says, Josh. That's why I love it. And that's why I dedicate my life to it, because, I'm not telling you that you're doing wrong or I'm doing right or something like that. I'm using it to find out, am I doing right? Am I doing the best path that I can?
And you're looking to attract other people who are curious about the same question, because you're not looking to fix anything or anybody. It just, if you're curious and you want to tap into more of yourself, this is how you can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we discussed this before about working with consultants, trying to explain to them, not selling them something, but just trying to explain to them how their consulting process is a portion or one of the principles or several of the principles of the theory of potential, so that they can see a much broader picture and a much more objective picture, right? And present that to people, so it becomes something of significance in the sense of again, understanding, not comprehending the life that you are living or those that you're advising.
Got it. So we're reaching the people who are already seeking these types of things and are curious about I think a larger and larger percentage of the population, Dr. Bob, are getting curious about this conversation. And I think that this can be a great outlet for people who are curious to explore it more and figure out what it means for each person.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you know, Jess, we're trying to get some other consultants on with us to discuss this and debate it or what have you. I don't care whether it's a debate, agree or they don't agree. I think it's important that we have important discussions about it from from a host of different perspectives. And we've got a few on the hook, but haven't reeled them in yet. Haven't made them fishers of men yet, but it will come. And I think the more we can do this with people, the more greater the understanding and the attention to the metaphysics. Because out of all of the philosophies that I studied, I'm a philosophy major. Metaphysics is by far the most interesting and the most revealing, because it covers that underlying truth that we all subscribe to, but we don't know it.
Hmm. And so why is that important? Why do you feel like why is it the most intriguing to you?
Well, because there is another life, there is another mind. There's this perfect mind that I've talked about, this natural mind, which is this categorizing of data, right? Which sets a very natural path for us, albeit predetermined, but that's okay, because you still have the free will to accept it or not, and that's what makes life exciting. That's what teaches us our lesson. When you say, oh well, this is that boring natural path. I'm not going to take it this time. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to use my free will. And then, something happens where it doesn't turn out the way you think or as profoundly as you think. And you say, boy, yeah, I should have went the other way. That's fascinating to me. That's interesting to me to see how life turns out when you're conscious. When you're conscious, to do an analogy, an analog of ancient Jewish lore. There's a story about the temple, Jewish temple, and the temple represented another world. When you went into the temple, you left this world and you entered a foreign world, another world. Right? And when you did, there were these two lions on either side of the entrance that when you walked in, they scared the living hell out of you to the point where you didn't know anything anymore. You didn't even know who you were.
Mm.
The story goes that Jesus knew about this. So what he did was he wrote a message to himself, and he cut himself, and he put the message in the skin. And he went into the temple. And when he got into the temple, at some point he realized that he had a cut. And he looked at it, and he saw the message. And he pulled out the message, and he understood what was going on, what happened. So then he came back to earth. And in so doing, he joined heaven and earth in an understanding that none of us have. Okay? And that has been the story of the teachings of not only Jesus, but of messiahs and Jewish life. And that's exactly what we're working towards. Being able to transcend the world that we're in for what I would call an eternal world, so that you could understand that world and live in that world in a different perspective, so to speak. So that when we die, we become, we're attempting to we're tempted to become physical again and live a life as we know it, okay? But we're not learning the lessons that we have been trying to learn while we're here, okay? Now, it's curious because in Corinthians, I think it's Corinthians 15, and Paul's letter to the Corinthians, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, I will teach you a mystery. And the mystery is this, that when you die, when the trumpets blow, you go to sleep. And when you wake up, you've changed. And that's the word he uses. He uses it several times. You've changed. Okay? Which sort of explains why we don't communicate with the ones we love, even though we're reaching out for them. All right. And that change represents our next life. So that this life, the metaphysics, this life is then connected with the next life. And that's how we become greater beings. That's how we become wise men. That's how we become true spirits. And by spirits, I mean people who have the fiber and the strength and the character to be what they're supposed to be and do what they're supposed to do. And that's what I think people like you and I are working on. And there are others out there which I hope to bring in. But that's what it's about, Josh, to me anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm on a very similar path or understanding of that, but it's also, it took quite a bit to get here, right? Because me from 10 years ago would see me talking about this now and be like, you're crazy, what are you talking about? So that still is in the back of my mind that I don't know, I feel like if you have this debate with somebody who needs that proof, like show me, why would I spend my life doing this if I don't even know, and I'll never know, that this is actually what's going on? What might you say to that person?
Look for it. Seek and you shall find.
Mhm.
Because if you look for it, even if you're somewhat apprehensive, it'll come to you. You will see hints that you haven't seen before, or maybe you have seen them before, but you completely disregarded, that now you're going to see in a different light. Okay? Oh gee, I forgot the biblical expression, but there's one in Kings, I think it's Kings 2 in the Bible. There's a quote that says, it's the nature of God to conceal things, but it's the nature of kings to seek them out.
Mm.
So that when people say, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm looking to make some money here. What are you talking about? And I'm talking about trying to find some wisdom to carry me to the next stage. See, I'm getting a call.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it works. When you're looking, something happens and says, okay, there's a hint here. But, there are some people who just are not going to, many are called, but few are chosen, it's not like God or the universe is choosing them. They are making their own choices as to what they're going to do. Problem with people today is they look at life as this is the beginning and this is the end. That's it. Right? However, life is just a snapshot of eternity. We are eternal beings seeking higher kingdoms, seeking to serve master of masters that we are part of, that we're creating. And while I'm a metaphysician, I'm a realist. I'm a sportsman. I'm a businessman. I conduct myself in a business fashion. I don't sit down and start a business meeting with a prayer or a chant or something like that. But I have this understanding, and I use it to understand where the other guy is coming from. What is it that he's focusing on? What's really, sure, I know he wants to make money or gain power or something, but why? What's behind his thinking? Where has he fallen off the natural mind path and fallen into the free will path that's taken him off? And once I find that, I'm in. I made the deal. Now it's just a matter of putting all the mechanics together and closing the deal. Okay. So there's a very real practical application here. And again, it's a matter of not looking at life as a small snapshot in time. I mean, if you live to be 100 years of age, that may be a long time, but it's nothing compared to eternity. That's essential.
Yeah, so I once watched a video on something called Big History. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's the understanding of where we fit in, and as we sit here in 2021, of the evolution of everything that we know. And there's certain things that we know scientifically that we can date. So for example, I don't know if I'll get this right or wrong, and I hope nobody comes after me for this. Like 14 point something billion years ago was the Big Bang, right? So think of this timeline of big history as just all the important events that progressed throughout history. And I think it was a TED talk that I watched that described this, but it described Goldilocks conditions for the next upgrade or up level of life, I guess, to happen. So the Big Bang, what happened after the Big Bang? Well, there's just, it was a universe of gases. And then eventually these gases over millions, if not billions of years, slowly started interacting with each other, and then other chemical reactions happened. And then boom, stars started to explode out of the pressure of these gases interacting with each other. Okay, so that's Goldilocks number one. And throughout history, there's been all these other Goldilocks situations. I'll fast forward a whole bunch. The extinction of the dinosaurs, right, gave this vacancy for mammals to grow and evolve, and all of a sudden you have hominids coming in and the human race. Okay, and if you look at that, that is relatively very recently in the form of big history. We're talking on a scale of 14.7 billion years. It's a couple 100,000 years ago, where maybe millions of years ago, where the first humans walked the earth. So to understand that, like, we live through life, what, 99% of our life, 99.9% of our life, not thinking about that. That should be a huge reference point for how we fit into what the hell is going on. Like, why is our life so important? And I think it kind of makes it easier to deal with some of the smaller things that we fret over on a daily basis. You're like, whoa, what's actually going on here? What's my mission? How can I progress my soul, or even the physical being that I am, to become a better person, to become greater, to learn lessons, to show courage, to overcome fear. And Earth, in the grand scheme of the solar system and beyond, is such an incredible place to practice those things, because there's so many challenges, there's so many perspectives, there's so many crazy things happening right now. You can look at it like, oh, that's doom and gloom, or there's so much opportunity to progress as a person, as a soul, as a being, for whatever comes next, whether or not you can prove that.
Very well put, Josh. Yes, that's exactly a very, very relevant and accurate assessment of the way things were, are, and most likely will be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the advancement of our souls. Our souls are more important to our daily reality than what we know. And what we
Can you talk about that a little bit more, Dr. Bob, the souls? Like what, I've read a couple books and that's what's piqued my interest in the subject, but you give me your frame of reference if you could. Like why, if somebody is doubtful, why do you think this discussion might be important to have with them?
Somebody's doubtful about having a soul, or
Yeah, like Dr. Bob, I can't see this stuff. Like I don't know what happens after I die. Like why should I care about this?
well, you if you look at life like that, there is no importance to it. But at some point, uh, and maybe it's just before death, we turn around and we say, I missed something here. You know, is this all there is? Um, did I hurt somebody that I shouldn't have hurt? Did I fail to become something that I could have become? You know, Marlon Brando, I could have been a contender, but he wasn't because he gave in to fear and ignorance.
Mm.
Okay? It's the same thing with us. That's surrendering your soul, your character, what you are, right? Not to be confused with spirit, which is the energy, a universal energy that we all have in the universe, which carries things, makes things happen, right? Your soul is your substance. Your soul is in effect what you are. And when somebody says, I don't believe in the soul, well, okay. So maybe you're 1,000 years behind the scene, you know? Um,
Yeah, maybe that person's learning a lesson they have to learn before they can learn the lesson of the
yeah,
soul.
yeah, sure. But let me tell you, and this is true. People who don't believe, for instance, in the soul, the more people that characterize their life as a soul, the more that's going to impact that person. And the more that person will be drawn. So if you or I do not characterize our soul, let's say by not being afraid to tell the truth about something or speaking up, just as an example, we're denying that guy, that person, that woman, that group from a deeper understanding of themselves and of their soul.
Oh, wow. I like that a lot. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that and that's what's going on in the world today. Because like the whistleblower, okay, whistleblower is telling us about the soul of something. Either themselves.
Dr. Bob, you're not on mute, but the audio is cutting in and out for some reason. I missed that whole last part.
No, all right. I'm saying like the whistleblower. Am I clear? Am I right?
I'm having some trouble hearing you. Hold on one second here. Hold on. All right, try again. Can I hear you?
All right.
Yeah, you're back. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry about that.
All right. It's like the whistleblower. The whistleblower is telling something about a soul. Theirs, the company that they're working on, the government that they're working for. Okay. And that's informing us who are not informed or not knowledgeable about that particular entity. So that's making our soul stronger. Now, you heard a whistleblower say this about a company. Okay, so now you're going to use that information. You or I would use that information. Somebody else may say, well, I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. It means nothing. But the more that happens, the greater the events of the soul are developed, the greater the society becomes, the greater that the chances are the individual are for growing. However, It's very simple to jump on the bandwagon when 60, 70, 80, 90% of the people are already on it. Okay? I mean, you know, there's a character to that, but it's not like those first 5 or 3% or 8 or 10% that say, I got it. And screw you, I'm gonna go with it. So it affects me, so it hurts me. So what? I'm gonna gain by it.
If I can interject real quick here, there's a great cartoon that shows somebody like some sort of master like whipping or has a whip going over the top of, I don't know, 100 people, and all these 100 people are bowed down. All right, and then the next picture is the same thing, master whipping and one person standing up. And then the next picture, the master's whipping and 5 people are standing up. And then the next picture, everybody's standing up. So to your point, those first believers, those first people it takes the most courage, right? Because the group is going the other way or in another direction. And sometimes even from the party who eventually supports you, when they first see you standing out like that, they resent you. They resent that. So it's not even the master that's not in congruence with you. It could be from your own tribe. And then to your point, then it starts to catch on and people follow after that.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, you really can't be concerned about what other people believe. You know, I know there are those of us who say, oh, no, this is the right thing and they have to do this. Even if it is the right thing, no, because you're taking away the learning experience, the spiritual experience that that person has to go through in order to get to where, let's say, you are. So you could be absolutely right about the way they are thinking or the things that they're doing. But it's up to the individual. It's up to them to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
And making it a mandatory law is not going to bring them to
Boom. Right. Yeah, and to kind of bring this full circle to how we started, I think that recognizing that whatever experience you're going through is for your growth. It's exactly what you should be experiencing to feel whatever you need to feel to get on the other side of that. And nobody can do that for us, but it makes things, I don't know if easier to deal with is the right term, but like you think of a death of a loved one. The first time you lost somebody that you loved, oh my gosh, that hurts so much. And not that it doesn't hurt after that, but if you can make sense of grief and such a very curious human emotion, that's part of life. It's part of what we need to go through to grow in our understanding of life and death. And it's kind of an abstract concept, but as you go through life and experience more of that, it makes it you see how it fits in, I guess. Is how
Well, I'll share something with you. You're absolutely right. And I have gone through that at a very young age. And it's taught me, well, let me just tell you, when I just turned 16, day before Christmas, I came home from school and I found out that my 53-year-old dad, father of 4, was dead. Well, walked up the stairs to the house, and one of my friends said, "Wow, your dad is dead."
wow.
And for the next 4 years, I lived what they call the dark night of the soul. Absolutely lost. No mentors, no spiritual books, you know, no uncles that I could depend on. They were all bookies, you know. I mean, nothing. My mother was much too young, and she had 4 young children to take care of. However, I often talked to my mother about this years later, and we both agreed that had my father not died when he did the way he did, my mother turned out to be a very successful businesswoman. She was from a housewife to a businesswoman. If things had not developed the way they did, we would not have been as successful and as strong as we became. I learned how to consider the use of adversity.
Mm.
how to take opposites, how to take negatives and turn them into positives. And it was a very, very difficult road. But now it's almost fun. It's almost fun, really. I'm learning how things that are adverse to me and my family, how I can take them and make them into something meaningful. Okay. So you're absolutely right. You're dead on. And I can say that my life is a living tribute to dealing with it in a spiritual way. Is the way I like to look at it, and to help people who have been in similar situations work their way out of it. And that's the work that you're doing as well, Coach.
Absolutely. Yeah. And no, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's interesting about your story is that it also didn't happen immediately after 4 years. That's a long time to live in darkness like that. That's a lot of suffering. But to be able to connect those dots looking back as we sit here today is the power behind it. And to your point, apply that principle to adversity that you face today. And I think it's like a muscle you can improve, and you shorten that gap between something that happens to you that's out of your control, that might be tragic, and how quickly you turn around your mindset to like, what's the opportunity here? Well, how can I grow? Where do I go from here? And yeah, it's definitely an adage that I use in my coaching practice. I love the line, nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning we give it.
Right.
So what if frustration meant that we're about to learn something new? Or what if adversity meant that there's an opportunity that's just around the corner? And all of a sudden you're reframing any potential negative thing that can happen into a positive, and you no longer reject it. You actually embrace it, like, oh my gosh, something good is about to happen. And if you can live your life that way, and you can train yourself to believe in that, then you are resilient, you are nimble, you are valuable to people. People seek you out. And I think that's that progression that can only come from experiencing some of those seemingly really terrible things.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I certainly hope that you're right about people seeking you out, because in a lot of cases, when you talk like this to people, they say, I'm leaving you now. I'll see you next week sometime. Don't,
I
don't talk to me like that.
well, so just a quick note on that. I may have shared this in the past. I have a sign right next to my desk that I wrote out, and it says, "The clients I seek are seeking me." So what does that do for my mindset? It means I can be myself and talk my truth, and the people out there that it resonates with are already looking for that. Kind of like I'm looking for it with you, and that's how we found each other. Like it was effortless. It wasn't like Dr. Bob, like I gotta show you what I believe in because you're not getting it. It's like, no, we're on the same page already. And I think the people who are seeking it, see us conversing about it and want to be a part of it because they feel something truthful there that they want to expand their understanding of.
This has been great, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy communicating with you. Your true spirit, and you lift up my spirit, because sometimes I get caught up in the other part of life, the non-metaphysical, and to have somebody that you could chat with that has a deeper understanding of what you are and what you're seeking and what you're attempting to do, it gives me strength. So thank you for being you, and thank you for participating in this. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation next week.
It's mutual, Dr. Bob. I appreciate our connection, and kind of like what we said earlier, sharing truth is like medicine for everybody's soul. And I think that's why we enjoy speaking with each other, is because we both grow from this. And it's just a reminder of what's actually important, what actually is happening. Yes, we get distracted and weighed down with all this really material, physical world that we live in. And there's a whole other one that sometimes we can forget about.
Great. Good talking to you. Have a great week.
All right. Take care, Dr. Bob.
Talk to you soon. Ciao.